Welcome back once again to Dadnarok. This is Sean,
And this is Chris.
and tonight we are starting a brand new series that we are going to call, I guess, Dadnarok Double Features. Something we're going to do throughout this movie season. The summer movie season starts in March, pretty much now. So this is where we're going to kick it off.
Even though it's 47 degrees today after being 80 yesterday, it's ridiculous here in Ohio.
Yeah, yesterday was 85 here, and then I thought it was going to be warm. I had a doctor's appointment this morning. I left the house at like 8 a.m. and it was like 35 degrees out. I was in a t-shirt.
This is
It's
so
like, what the
stupid.
hell? Yeah.
But what movie are we talking about here? If you haven't been paying attention, didn't see the thumbnail, I think we need to check some things. But we're we're doing Project Hail Mary,
Yeah.
movie that I seen the previews for a while back in the theater,
Long
and
time ago.
immediately piqued my interest. I have no
Mhm.
I didn't know it was a book at the time, so I had no clue that there was actual like a source material for it. And the closer and closer we got, the more and more like rumbling we heard about it, or I heard about it, I should say. And I'm like, this is something that I'm really, really looking forward to seeing. And then I kind of turned you on to us. I don't know if you knew about the movie prior to me saying anything about it, or
I can't remember. It's been that long ago. I remember seeing trailers for this thing. I mean, a long time ago. So I honestly can't remember if you showed it to me or if I just happened to catch it somewhere. But they've been marketing this movie for a while,
yeah,
which it was kind of strange because I remember seeing it even like maybe summer of last year. But it's I think well worth it. Not that, you and I have not talked at all since both seeing it over the weekend, what our feelings are.
yeah. So I'm gonna start with this real quick. So we've got 5 people here watching. We don't have a paywall. Drop comments. Let us know what you thought of the movie, what we're getting wrong about the movie, or if you did or did not like the movie. Go ahead and we'll bring them up. We'll kind of work with them as we go, as we work our way through what we thought of this.
Yeah. Or if
So
you've read the audiobook, or if you've read the book or listened to the audiobook,
yeah,
maybe you'll have some insights that we don't have.
there we go. So let's start with this. What were your thoughts like walking out? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Uh, what was it?
I mean, I loved it. I took my mother to go see it. We were in a somewhat not very crowded room, which was disappointing because I was hoping to see it with more people. But we did see it like kind of a matinee showing. But not my room or the capacity was not an indicator how well it did because it got 80 million over the weekend. It did pretty well for itself. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good, just like kind of wholesome sci-fi fantasy world that didn't stray. It did like I call it the Ghostbusters effect, but when you start a movie very kind of grounded, you're in a classroom setting. It's present day or what feels like present day,
Yeah.
and then by the end of it, you're on a rock alien planet or whatever in a big biodome. So it takes you on a journey. The entirety of the movie. But walking out, I really really enjoyed it.
It's, I'm happy to hear that. It's awesome. I loved it. In my opinion, I think
Yeah.
it's one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time.
Wow, that much, huh?
That much, yeah. Because I went into it with high expectations, and it's dangerous walking into a movie with high expectations
Yeah.
because a lot of the times movies can't reach the expectations that you set for it. But I went ahead and I bought these tickets. I bought 2 tickets. I was going to take me and my wife. We're going to go see it as like kind of a date night. But my daughter's birthday is right about now, and just trying to organize things, and Easter happening, spring break. It wound up being Zach and I to go to see it, and he
Yeah.
even pushed back a little bit. It's like I don't know if I want to see this. We walked out of the theater, and he was like, "You have to take mom to see this movie."
Oh, okay, good.
This movie was fantastic. He was laughing. When it got serious, he was like looking at me like, he was fully engaged in the movie.
Yeah.
And I was too. I was like, I couldn't. I mean, I laughed more in this movie than I thought I was going to laugh. And then even the really like drama built in the parts of the movie is
Yeah.
like you're sucked in for the entirety of it. Like I left walking out as I looked at Zach. It's like, okay, I need to find a Rocky for my desk. I
Yeah.
wanted to find him like in his sphere, the first little sphere that when he comes onto the Hail Mary, I wanted a little one that was on like a little platform that I could put like right on my desk.
Yeah, they gotta sell those things. They
There,
were such a kind of a
there
central
isn't
part
any
of the
available
movie.
yet.
Oh, there will be.
Oh yeah, very soon. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it was everything I wanted to be, and more, frankly.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. I didn't expect the story to be structured the way it was, where it was kind of back and forth between
That threw me.
him. That threw me at
That
first. I got used
mhm,
to it,
yes.
but it did throw
Well,
me
see,
too.
not knowing anything from the book, I thought Grace went voluntarily. I
Right.
thought
Yeah.
he did that, and come to find out later. Spoiler, guys. I'm sorry. Later
Yeah.
in the movie, we find out that that wasn't the case. So when he woke up from stasis, that explains the what the hell, what's going
Yeah.
on, where am I, who am I, the whole amnesia type of situation that was happening.
It throws you in. I mean, from the very beginning, you wake up when he does on the spaceship and he's confused. Um, and you kind of take it at first as him just having like, whatever paralysis and like you said, amnesia from the journey that he's been on and being
I
in a
think it's a
coma.
4-year journey too. If I remember
I think
later in the
so.
movie when they talk about going back, I think they referred to it as a 4-year journey.
Yeah. And you learn as you're watching as a viewer the kind of the backstory of how he got onto this ship. And I thought maybe from the previews, from the trailer, it felt like NASA or this international, space organization had picked him because they believed in him because he was such a good teacher and there was a little bit of that, but I didn't expect that, well, he was not the first choice and they were kind of forced into I mean, into like forcing him to go on to it. It
Oh,
wasn't
to
even
actually
his
go on
choice.
the ship, yeah. Because when
Yeah.
they took him out of the school, he was like one of, I don't know, many that were working on this project,
Yeah.
and he almost like, "I don't know what I'm doing here," and she was like, "We're okay, we're packing up, we're leaving." He's given up. He's like, "Hold on, no, 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 I wanna be a part of this," because he had a theory or wrote a paper about
Yeah.
how I think it was water wasn't needed for life, and he kinda got laughed out, I guess, out of the scientific community
Right.
for that, that thought, which come
Yeah.
to find out, I mean, we find out later with Rocky, he wasn't wrong.
Yeah. And nothing's more endearing than nothing gets you quicker than how well, and this goes in life too, as far as you could tell how good of a person is by how they treat children or the elderly, or animals.
Yeah,
And from the get-go, you could see that he was a dedicated teacher that really cared about his students. Kind of tiptoed around the idea. And it's funny, in this classroom, you learn that there's some sort of tragic event that's taking place that's basically given planet Earth a ticking clock of about 30 years. And he's kind of tiptoeing it around, really kind of explaining it to the children because that's something, their parents should maybe be the ones to discuss. But you can see his level of care for their needs and
yeah,
immediately kind of endears you to him. And by the end, I mean, Ryan Gosling, this is his movie, man. I mean, the same
it's
way
yeah.
that like Tom Hanks in Castaway, like this is like Ryan
Rocky
Gosling's movie.
was his
It was
volleyball.
his Wilson, yeah, except Rocky has a
Yeah.
lot more personality.
Oh, Rocky. Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to look up what the name of that line that was going from like sun to sun, basically, and it was the
Mm.
Petrova line,
Mm-hmm.
and they brought it up during, like you were saying, in the classroom,
Yeah.
and he's like, he was like, he gave that line like, you know what, you should talk to your parents about this.
Yeah.
And then they pushed, I guess, and they're seeing that they were in a science class. They pushed him a little bit. He's like, you know what? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And then they really didn't show the aftermath of what that would be. Because you can only imagine, these kids are going to come home and talk to their parents and say, what's this and what's that? And nowadays, they may be going to school and say, hey, why is this science teacher scaring our kids or whatever whatever they would have say at that point. But it's like, I like how he treated them like adults.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what it is. This is what's going on. We don't know truly what's happening, and we're gonna figure this out over time.
And I got to tell you, yeah, like we'd already mentioned it, but the plot mechanics or the actual storytelling structure that they have in place, where it goes back and forth between the lead up, where he's with the scientists and on planet Earth, and the lead up before leaving Earth, and then him alone on the space shuttle or the space station that they send him on. You don't get bored with either one. You know what I mean? Like when it
Yeah,
transitions, you're like, okay, like you're eager to learn. It's like you're eager to find out more about what's going on in the current time, as far as just like, oh, how's he going to get out of this predicament, or how's he going to learn to communicate with this alien that he's found, or how's he going to be able to solve this problem all by himself in the ship. You're like constantly wanting to know more, but also, that could be a pothole. So like if you're so invested in that and it keeps going back to planet
Mhm.
Earth for some backstory, you could be like, oh man, like, I don't want to go back. But that's not the case. Every time you go back, you learn a little bit more about the lead up, about the whys. It really kind of broadens out your understanding of why he's out there to begin with, and it does it in an entertaining way with character build up and learning about the two other astronauts that he's on there with, and kind of already knowing their fate, but seeing who they were as people. Like all that stuff was interesting too. So the whole movie is like it doesn't lose you, you know?
Yeah, I enjoyed the whole part, like, on Earth when he was learning about it and when he figured things out. When
Yeah,
they first put him in the actual, like, room and they were like, "Would you guys care if I live?" And they took, that was in the trailer, and it took a while to respond and say, "Well, we prefer you to live."
you're right. That was good.
But he's going through all these things, and he figures out maybe his hypothesis about water not being necessary was true. And then he sees it's not, and he throws that like just he gets so angry in there,
Yeah.
and he's like sits down, he's like defeated. But then it shows him continuing to go, and he figures out how to beat it or how to go ahead and produce some more. How him and that security guard,
Yes. Was it
him and
Carl? Yeah.
Carl was fantastic. He was asking if he had like an expense account. You're like, no, 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 I do. And they wind up at
Yeah.
like Home Depot or somewhere. They're buying all this stuff, and the Skittles at the end got me.
Yeah.
The sour Skittles, I think they was hilarious when they got back. And they start going around and they close that box up, and the astrophage disappears.
Mhm.
And we're like, oh crap! Now we can't open the box, or we're gonna lose it because we only have three pieces of this. And then when they find out that it basically a bread, it split
Yeah.
and it turned into four. It's like, oh, now we got something. We figured something. Me and Carl figured something out, maybe on accident.
And he did it using like old school, like, literal like school classroom science class stuff, like a high school
Yeah,
science class, like using stuff from a Home Depot, like you said, plywood and duct tape, and just
infrared
getting,
light. Yeah,
yeah, down and dirty with, like old school science and the kind of stuff that your science teacher would have done when you were a kid. Like that stuff was really endearing. And it was kind of like, and I just kind of thought of this, like the movie as a whole is a love letter to human ingenuity and compassion, right? As far as just like the overall themes. But really, it's a love letter to science too. Like our world has just like doctors are not treated great these days. We have people complaining about vaccines or like everything's so political, and scientists don't know what they're talking about with global warming or whatever. And it's like there's a real lack of faith in science these days. And I just like science was my favorite class as a kid. Like just learning about the world around us and how it works. I think this movie was a real like love letter to that too. So I really enjoyed it.
and this is one of those things too. A lot of like what we have now came from science fiction movies. Like you
Hmm.
look at a lot of things, it's like okay, we think they're a joke back in the 50s and 60s when they're putting weird things in Star Trek, shows and
Yeah,
everything, and a lot of that stuff came to fruition. So it's people that make these type movies and these type shows that have some type of crazy thought
right.
and build it out there, and that, like the Hail Mary itself, the ship. I think
Yeah,
they just called it the Mary.
yeah,
We're talking about going to Mars. We're talking about going beyond, and the way that they did this ship, it could be lead to other things that happen in real life. So it's the symmetry between the two has always kind of been relying on each other.
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you just think even the simple example of like, remember in the Jetsons, they used to talk to each other on televisions, right? Like, can you imagine like having a video phone call? And now that's like, people are walking around the grocery store having video phone calls in their hands. Like,
Like,
it's
honey,
just
is this
like,
the flower you're looking for?
right. Like, it's normal everyday stuff. And that just comes from like, somebody thought of it in their imagination one day. And we worked on it as a species until we actually got it.
Yeah.
And it's working. And it's like, that goes for any number of things, whether it be curing diseases or, communications, technology. And I think this movie touches a need almost. And you didn't see Superman, but there's a theme in the Superman movie over last summer where kindness can be punk rock too, and just like being nice and kind to people can actually be a good thing and cool. And this movie kind of touches on that too. It's just like it was very positive, and I honestly I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it to be like 2001: A Space Odyssey or something that was really kind of heady or like too difficult to understand. I didn't
Did you
expect it
catch the
though.
Space Odyssey not reference
Oh,
when
there's probably a few of them in there.
he went boom, 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 boom. Like no, it wasn't Odyssey. I'm sorry, that's not Odyssey. That's
It was Close
Steven Spielberg's
Encounters of the Third
Close
Kind. Yeah,
Encounters. Yes, when he
yeah.
started
Dun
making the
dun
noise and this.
dun dun
Yeah, yeah.
dun. Yeah, I did notice that one. Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's funny.
Um, but yeah. Oh, I didn't expect it to be such a family film. I mean, this is
Mhm.
like a four quadrant. Like you could take. I don't know how young a kids, but there's nothing in here that's like too over the top. The only thing, some kids may lose their interest if they're programmed with YouTube and their iPad kids or whatever. But I would say kids around our age, like, the 9, 10, 11, 12, they're old enough to see this. There's like, a-
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and like Rocky as a cute little character or
Yeah,
something that they could,
we gotta talk about Rocky.
yeah, that they could
Yeah,
glom onto.
yeah, we can't go. We're 16 minutes in this, and we really have not talked about Rocky yet.
Right.
Rocky, did you know Rocky was a puppet?
Mm-mm.
He was actually a puppet. So someone was doing the whole animation, and everything, puppeteering him the whole
Oh,
time.
I thought it was fully CG, which I mean
Nope.
that's good.
Yeah, and it probably made it easier for Ryan
Ryan
Gosling
Gosling. Yeah.
because he was by himself the whole time. It's
Right.
essentially when he's in that capsule in space, it's him and Rocky, and making
Yeah.
it so Rocky is actually someone that is animating him or puppeteering him. Animating is the wrong word. Puppeteering.
Yeah.
It probably makes it easier.
That's great. That's actually good to know that he's a practical effect because you're right. The only reason I thought maybe it was totally CG is because he and Rocky never really interact directly. Like there's always some sort of like
There's
plexiglass thing
mhm,
that's
there's something
that's
in
between
between
the
them.
two of them because of the environment that basically our environment is harmful to him and vice versa. So they always had to
Yeah,
kind of keep a barrier between themselves. So that's the reason I assumed that it was all fully CG, but that's good to know that they dipped into some old school practical filmmaking there.
I'll do. When he started, like when their ships got together for the first time,
Yeah,
and Grace was like, "Nope." He moved it. Another ship followed him. Nope. And I about lost it. I was laughing. I thought that was hilarious. And then
yeah,
when he shot that like bridge over, I'm like, "Uh oh." Like if
right.
I was Grace in his position, I'm like, "Oh hell." I
Yeah,
mean, I see an alien ship for the first time ever, which we didn't even think they existed to start with. Now someone's going to board my ship.
right.
What is going on here? But yeah, the throwing the things back and forth was common. That whole first interaction with them back and forth was funny.
Yeah, when Rocky was like sending those things floating out to Mary, and each like little canister with the messages, he put them out there slower and slower. Like Grace finally understands. Like, oh, he thinks I'm stupid. Just little moments like that where it was, yeah, just so funny. The one thing I just thought of though, I almost regret seeing any trailers for this thing because the moment that he made first contact with Rocky, like I already knew that he ends up like, they had the whole scene where they're like, fist bumping and stuff with
Yeah,
Rocky in the trailers. And I'm like, that could be a real scene, just like the hesitation and the apprehension of like, oh my God, we're not alone in the universe. There's an alien and you don't know what their intentions are. You don't know
yeah.
what they're going to look like. You don't know, I think that would have played greater with more it would have hit harder if we didn't know that this was like a little rock creature that ends up, fist bumping. You know
No,
what I mean? So,
I've heard a counter to that of since Rocky is basically the story is Rocky and Grace, and it
yeah,
was kind of like if they didn't tell you about Rocky, it was kind of like E.T. You're not. It's not. ET's not a part of it, and you find out about ET actually in the theater and not on the movie poster or in the lead up to it.
right.
So that was the only counter like argument I've heard about that because I had a similar thing. I was like, you know what? If I didn't know about him
Yeah.
until they make contact, it ought to have been. I mean, it would have had a bigger effect on me rather than me knowing he was coming.
Yeah, I don't know what the best way to play that is because it's like if you would have shown him too much before marketing, then things people would have seen it and like not had the context and been like, "What is this little thing they're trying to this little Grogu cutesy thing they're trying to like push on me?" Right? If he was
Yeah.
too upfront in the marketing, but at the same time, you know, because now they are now there's like a commercial with
Now they're
Ryan
leaning into
Gosling.
it. Yeah.
Now they're leaning in. Now that it's out and in theaters, there's even like commercials and stuff with Rocky in it. And they're like, okay, we can release him to the wild and let the people see him.
But he was so much fun when he first knocked on the actual like when Grace walked across the bridge and knocked on the actual door, and he's
Yeah,
like he's knocking, and so it's like he's knocking back, and he's like, "No, look, I got another present for you, stupid."
yeah. It was, yeah, that was funny. There were a lot of scenes like that, and it was just like following Grace's journey. I keep going back between Grace's character name and Ryan Gosling, the actor. That
Yeah,
we do that all the time. But like it's constantly like what would I do in this situation? Like you constantly are putting yourself in that situation like what's the dilemma now? What's the predicament? Like oh like being scared of the first contract and then you find out that the alien basically doesn't seem to be mean or have bad intentions. So it's like okay, well now, how do we talk to each other? How do we
yeah,
communicate? And then once we're able to communicate, like, how are we going to work together to figure this, sun eater problem out? Which was a very cool plot device, which was a very cool threat. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
basically, just this natural force, this element, this biological creature that's out in outer space. It's just doing its thing. It's not doing it maliciously to kill other, things. It's just it eats suns, and that's what that's what it
yeah,
eats. And it's just like a virus that's like going from star to star to star in the solar system. And it's like, how do you defeat this thing that is so unknown to us as a species? Which I thought was
yeah,
really interesting predicament for them to be in.
yeah. And they had to get to, I think it was called Talsetti, is where they
Hmm.
met. That was, I mean, that's something. But yeah, it was also heartbreaking to hear, like, when Rocky was like, so many others. I don't remember how many were there. I think 24 or something like that.
Yeah, he was one of 23 on the ship. Yeah.
20, yeah. And he said, all dead, all sleeping.
Yeah.
And then when
Oh,
he
and when he
asked,
freaked out that he learned that, Grace had to go sleep and he was like,
yeah,
don't leave me.
I watch you sleep. And
Yeah.
Grace actually had the transfer, going through the process of that from him not liking him to watch him sleep and Rocky watching him to where we almost thought we lost Rocky and Grace standing there and watching him sleep.
Right.
It
Yes.
was like
Yeah.
there was such. I mean, the one thing that I don't think they did a very good job at, and it's impossible to do in a movie, the timing. How much time has elapsed the whole
Yeah.
time they're there? That's the one thing. But I mean, that's splitting hairs because you
Right.
really can't go through it. And apparently, in the book, there's a lot of time that elapsed with them learning how to speak to each other, and there's a lot of
Sure.
time that elapsed in other aspects, which they had to kind of fast forward a little bit for the movie, just for movie sake. You can't have a 4 hour long movie of just
Right.
and 2 hours of that just them learning how to talk to each other.
Yeah, this is honestly, and we go back and forth on this as far as like the state of, whether something should be a movie or maybe like a limited series. But I could see where you could probably could have stretched this book. I don't know if you should have, because this movie is ultimately like a good movie. But I could see where you could have stretched the story out over, like 6 episodes of a season to where it's like, one episode could be entirely dedicated to like how did these two learn to communicate with each other. Like that could have taken like a whole, thing on itself. But ultimately, like this movie works, so you didn't have to do that. But another thing I wanted to bring up too, you're talking about themes in the movie, but just like you kind of learn throughout the movie how much Grace doesn't believe in himself, as far as he had some hard knocks and maybe in life overall, but especially in his career, being kind of knocked back.
Yeah.
He was kind of a hotshot scientist, at least the talk of the town at one point, and kind of knocked back into being a teacher and doesn't have a lot of self confidence when it comes to that. finds himself surrounded by these, worldly experts in this international kind of NASA organization, feels very much like, a low man on the totem pole around them. And then at the very end, when he, can't bring it upon himself to even like join this suicide mission ultimately,
Mhm.
um, he's like, I'm not brave. I'm the guy that runs away. And then, at the very end, Rocky is like trying to find the word for brave. Like you're so
Yeah.
willing to sacrifice yourself for others. I don't know what's the word for it. And he
He
types in
said
there
dumb
brave.
originally.
Yeah.
He originally said dumb.
Right. And it's just like full circle moment where you finally see, the character arc where you see Grace believe it in himself that like he recognizes it in himself that he has the capacity to do things, big things like that. So that was very satisfying too as an arc.
What'd you think of the character of Strat? The basically the head woman that was controlling everything. Like she's the one that came in and pulled him out of the school. Very very cold, but she kind of
Yeah.
apparently she was colder in the books and they softened her a little bit for the movie. Because it got to the point where like they were on top of the actual aircraft carrier, or whatever, and they're talking. And I was like, oh no, are they gonna go down the romantic road? Like are they
I
kind
was
of
wondering about that too. Yeah.
it looked like it got very close. It never
Yeah.
took place in the books. I'm glad that they didn't do that because I don't know if that would have fit. Definitely with what happened later
Right.
in the movie.
Yeah.
But I like
Yeah, and
how
it's
she came down and sung that song, that Beatles song.
yeah.
I was like, oh, because the wording of the song, it was like everything's gonna be all right. It's a time, the story of the times. And I'm like the song and knowing that all these people, well, a group of these people that were down there partying weren't coming home.
Right. Yeah.
So the choice of the song was it hit me. I'm like, oh, that is a very well placed song for the movie.
I liked the character as a whole. I thought she was a good representation, honestly, of how a lot of these very smart people operate. Because I think, you can have people that are like Grace's character, where they're somewhat affable and they're like neurotic, but they are overall, they know how to socialize and they have their own issues, but, they can be funny and stuff. They can portray some characteristics that the rest of us like enjoy, and you'd have a beer with that person or whatever. But then a lot of these folks, especially that get to the higher levels, that end up working for the government and
Mhm.
stuff, they can be very cold, very calculating, very analytical, where they're more comfortable dealing with numbers than they are with dealing with people, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was like a fair spectrum of seeing like how these different people in these different fields would ultimately, be. And what I did like about her character, though, is that I think there's maybe a tendency for a character like hers to kind of dismiss a character like Grace,
Mhm.
but she never did. I mean, the entire time she basically saw what his worth was and what his value was, and even at the very end, I felt like she felt bad for having to force him to go on
Mhm.
that ship. Like there was real guilt there because she didn't want to do that to him, and she ultimately chose the world over his needs. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, she was
Like,
like, I hope you understand why I'm doing this.
yeah, yeah. So
And then he
I think
ran.
I think even though it was kind of she was on there, but definitely didn't have as much screen time as, she's probably the second most screen time other than, or maybe the third, other than Rocky
Yeah.
and Ryan Gosling. But yeah, I thought it was a good character, good portrayal.
But even after he ran, he's laying on the ground. They called him. He looks up and sees Carl, and he's like, "You
Yeah,
are the right guy." Or
yeah,
basically, he was affirming them. He's like, "You can do this." Basically,
right.
knowing what they went through at the very beginning together.
Let's talk about that too, because it's like I wonder if everything played out the way it should have so it would work. Because if it was anybody else on that ship that maybe lacked the same humanity or
Hmm.
patience, maybe it wouldn't have worked because he wouldn't been able to communicate with Rocky or find a way to be a gel with Rocky's personality, and they wouldn't
Yeah.
have been able to work so well together, or you know what I mean, or just been too frightened to even like make first contact. Like it worked out the way it was supposed to work out. That's how I felt. I did. And speaking of that, I did have one question that I don't know if I missed it in the movie, or maybe it's something that's not in the movie that's in the book. But how did the captain and the other astronaut, the two other astronauts that he's on the ship, how did they die? because he
That's good.
wakes up and they're already dead.
Yeah, they're already gone. Uh, I don't know. Maybe their life support failed on the way out. They really didn't address it. That's something that's probably
Okay.
addressed in the book. Yeah, because he woke up and the beds came out and he was on the lower one. He went up,
Yeah.
the first one dead, then he found the second one. Then he starts pulling out all their, their belongings, and he's
Right.
sitting there. He's laying in that one hallway with a bag of vodka, and he's just drinking.
Yeah, an IV full of vodka. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be full of vodka. But yeah, even that, even finding out that those other astronauts were dead, you start learning about them through the pictures, and you figure
Right.
out who they are. Then it goes back again, and you find out the male astronaut, the Asian astronaut. He said, "Well, he was like, I'm not as brave as you." He said, "Well, you have to find someone to be brave for."
Right.
And we find that's exactly what happens to him later in the movie. He's
Yeah.
brave for Rocky because Rocky's astrophage was basically killing him the same way the other 23 of his crew died. So he turns around, sends the stuff back to Earth on the Beatles. Did you notice that? all the probes going back were named after
Yeah.
the
Yeah. I
Beatles,
did notice that. Yeah.
and then he goes to save Rocky. So he
Yeah.
found
Which
his
I
person to be
thought,
brave for.
how did you, as far as the ending, basically it ends where he sends his probes back to Earth. It's got to be some number of years later because we check in on that female scientist and she
Mhm.
looks, they aged her up a bit. Basically, she's got some wrinkles and some gray hair. So you can see that some time has elapsed. And the battleship that they were on is going through like icy conditions. So you think maybe the climate on Earth has gotten just a little bit,
A little
colder
bit
since
colder,
we were
yeah,
last there. Um, so, so he sends the probe. They ultimately they get the information and the little, farm of bacteria or whatever they need to battle this thing on Earth. And I guess you got to assume that Earth's going to be okay because really we see Ryan Gosling head back to Rocky's home planet to start a school there where he's living in a little
yeah.
biodome and little his own little apartment down there. How do you feel about the over? Because a movie can be great, and there are a lot of good movies out there that don't
But they
stick the
don't stick the
landing.
landing. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Do you feel
time
like this
wise,
stuck the landing?
let's think. Okay, so time wise, so when the minute they leave Earth and make the trip out to Telsini,
Mm-hmm.
that's 4 years. So there's 4 years gone there.
Yeah.
We don't truly know the amount of time that Rocky had with what's his name? Blank on his name now.
Grace.
Grace.
Yeah.
So we don't know that period. But we know once that period was over, there's another 4 years for those probes to get home.
Yeah.
So there's an 8 year window there,
At the
and
very
then
least. Yeah.
at the minimum. And
Yeah.
then, like I said, the only thing that's really unknown is how long that Grace and Rocky were together.
Yeah.
So if that was a few years, so we're looking at 10 to 12 years
Right.
from day one to the end of the movie,
Yeah.
which aging her up and everything, I mean, I felt like that was fitting. I feel that they may have gone a little far, but she also looked like she was stressed. Like stress ages even more.
Sure. Yeah.
So I feel like that kind of took place. And there may have been a little bit of guilt as well
Right.
of, she sent him on this trip. And then when she's watching the video diaries, it's like she sees him doing what she knew he could do. She believed in what his capabilities were over that time when he basically was running the scientific department of the project.
Yeah.
So and then going back to Rocky and everything, they fooled me at first. They got me. I seen the
They
ocean. I was like, okay, that's not on the Hail Mary.
right.
But then I see Rocky and is like, he was in a spacesuit himself. It wasn't actually in like a dome, which I thought was
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Yeah.
And I loved when he said, "We have your ship complete. Grace can go home now."
Right. Right.
And when he said, "Can I think about it?" He said, "Think a long time about it." I was like, "Oh, he doesn't want him to
Yeah.
leave."
No, yeah. Yeah, and they had to say goodbye a couple times in the movie and it
Mhm.
just that one time it was real heartbreaking where they split ways in space and they kept like turning back and waving and doing little dances together and
Yeah.
stuff and that was a sad scene too. Um I
Or when
think
we thought that Ryan may have died, or
oh
Grace
yeah.
died, and then Rocky got out and hit the switch, and then we
Yes.
thought he died.
Yeah, both
Oh,
of
there
them.
there was so much, like, there's a whole point of this movie that was just pulling at your heartstrings.
Yeah. Oh no, the whole fishing scene, and we haven't mentioned it, but they named that planet Adrian as far as after
Yes.
Rocky's mate. Yeah. But they were fishing with that big, thing on the line that he constructed. I thought just the concept of this rock alien and how they're able to create all these like intricate like metallic
Almost kind of like
things.
a spider with web,
Y-
but with actually like with
Right.
metal.
Yeah, which was very cool and how he was able to construct all these things. And yeah, but that whole scene was like really intense, like with the thing being on the outside of the ship and him having to do the spacewalk
Hmm.
and like basically the thing's crashing and they had to pull up and it was a scene of maybe like a 10-minute length scene, but it was like you were like kind of clawing the armrest of the chair just like because it was very like dramatic, like what the heck's gonna happen? You feeling for
Yeah.
them both.
That let me see. Oh, there was another part where Grace was lying to Rocky about going home.
Yeah,
And when he's like, I've come to grips with it. I understand, this is what I'm doing. I'm here. This is my part I'm playing. I'm sending it home. And Rocky was like, no, I have enough I can provide you. I'll get home 6 years later,
right,
but you're going home. He's like, Rocky could fix this. Rocky couldn't fix all his other, crew members dying. He can
right.
fix this. He'll get
Yeah,
home later, but he's like, you know what, Rocky fix. I'm like, oh, then you see Grace's breakdown.
right.
Because
Yeah.
he thought it was pretty much over as well.
Yeah, that was a good scene too. It's just like the throughout the entire movie where you see Rocky learning about humans and humanity, it almost kind of showed you as a viewer through brand new eyes. You know, like when you have kids and like they learn about things brand new
Hmm.
and you have to kind of like explain the world around you to them and it makes
Yeah,
you think about the world in a different way than you normally do. And I felt like there was a piece of that in the movie where it's just like how does Rocky see this through his, senses and how does Grace explain this particular thing to him and just the back and forth with that. It was a lot. You wouldn't think that like it would be such a deep emotional connection with this like rock puppet, but they did such a good job in the storytelling
mm,
where you just buy into it,
yeah.
and they do a great job with you. You're just sunk into it, and you believe it the rest of the movie.
Well, I like how they did it too, because they went to that sphere area where they had the fireworks, or they showed them what fishing
Yeah,
was, or they showed them what the
yeah,
ocean was. Climbing a tree was another thing. Just all these little things that would have taken place back on Earth that Rocky had no idea about.
yeah.
But here's a question: we were talking about the ending not that long ago. Do you think they would have held on to the information about Rocky? They just figured out a way to actually save the son. Now there's confirmation that there is life beyond Earth, like living. Uh, I'll say living beings, but people that it's just they're smart. They're able to go ahead and do what
Right.
we do. We're not the only
Yeah,
intelligent beings in the world in the
yeah.
universe. Essentially, would they have held on to that, or would they have said something?
Would the scientists have held on to that?
Yes, because
Oh
you've
well.
seen you've seen Strat watching the videos, seeing him interact with
Mm,
Rocky. She's very aware of Rocky. All the video
right.
recordings and the video diaries that went back have both Grace and Rocky in them. Because you see
I
Rocky
don't
giving him a
know.
hard time.
I don't know because it's like ultimately, you could say the same thing about our government and Roswell and stuff. Like, are there things and the government's just not telling us about it? Well, I feel like that's the tendency to do things like that. But on the other hand, this is a different world. It's our world, but it's different in that we all, as every nation, had to face this one singular problem that we all had to work on, in order to
Yeah, right.
survive. And it was like it was an entity that was already from outside our known universe. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like it was already something that came as far as what the line was that went from the sun to Venus. Like it was already something that we had no idea existed and that didn't come from Earth and that was like affecting us. And maybe people even knew eventually that it was like some living being. I think maybe even they found out with his experimentation that it wasn't some black hole or something. And like these things
yeah,
were like living beings.
yeah. It was
Um,
bacterial, like setup.
so given that that was already kind of if that was a known quantity, I think it might be easier to tell people that like, oh yeah, by the way, like there's this rock species out there that helped Grace while he was out there, and maybe to give some folks a little bit of hope that we're not alone in the universe.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't. I can see it going either way,
That could
honestly.
spark that can go both ways. That can spark mass hysteria,
Yeah,
or that could go, okay, we finally know.
and honestly, the whole time when Grace and Rocky were kind of going back and forth, I was wondering, I was like, is this going to go into some kind of predicament where he has to bring Rocky back to Earth? Either like his spaceship is destroyed or whatever,
Hmm.
and in order for Rocky to survive. And I'm like, well, what does that look like? If he brings
Yeah.
some alien back to Earth, I mean, time has and movies have not been very kind to alien visitors that, visit Earth. So I could see like, him being snatched up right away by the government and like tested on and like um, that's why Clark Kent is hidden in Kansas, and his folks don't want him to use his powers because they're like, as soon as you do, like the government's going to come and steal you away and do tests on you, like because
Yeah.
I could see that, like that's where my mind went. Now that luckily that's not the story where the story went to. Ultimately, it was more of a hopeful thing, but I was thinking about that as we were progressing through the movie.
Now my brain went to why Grace didn't come home is he would never be able to live his life. He has
Mm,
been outside of the Earth's atmosphere. He's been at an alien planet. He's met an alien. He would wind up in quarantine for so long that he would never see the light of day again.
right.
Now that wasn't. I don't think that really crossed his brain, but that's what I was like. Okay, that's why I told Zach. Zach was like, "Why didn't he go home?" I said, "Well, he probably would never lived his life again. So he's living over here on Edrid or something like that, whatever Rocky's
Yeah.
planet was." But I mean, I like you said, I don't. I'm glad that wasn't a plot line either. Uh, but as a whole, one thing I really did like about the movie was there was really no true bad guy.
Right. Yeah.
There was no bad guy in this movie. They were all trying to work towards one collective uh, goal. And it just happened that our goal was the same as Rocky's. And they came together and they were working on it. And they basically, with completing their goal, they saved both their worlds.
Yeah, and I like that kind of thing too because it doesn't it seems like it doesn't happen very often where usually there's some sort of thing to blame, like and some
Mhm.
sort of malicious force that's out there to do bad just to do bad as opposed to in real life really we just deal every day with obstacles and issues. Like things cost too much, or things are outside of our reach, or things are too complicated for us to understand, or like, it's rarely a bad guy that's out to get us. It's mostly those everyday life things
Mhm.
that are hitting
Yeah.
us over and over again. And for a couple of different alien species that become friends to sit down and like solve a big problem by just working together. Like, yeah, that's something that we can feel good about and learn from and try to use in everyday experiences.
I just thought of Rocky coming on the Marriott for the first time. Where's Grace's ship? Where's Grace's lab? Dirty, 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 dirty.
Yeah. Amaze, amaze, amaze. Yeah,
That
that was
was
cool.
that, oh man. I think I intend on seeing this movie for a second time. I think I'm gonna
Oh, I
take
was
try to
thinking
take
that earlier. I was like, now that I know the full story and I know the layout of the Mary and I know like ultimately how these two characters, it would be nice to like go back to the beginning and be like and probably notice things that we didn't notice, the first time
yes.
around.
A fun side note, Adam Savage has his own channel out there, and
Yeah.
he's done a lot of walkthroughs, a lot of the practical sets, and some of like the models and everything. He's done a bunch of with them, so there's a bunch online on YouTube that you actually see all that. Which I've watched a couple of them already, which was pretty fun to watch. Now I'm in line to either read the book or listen to the book. Like I
Yeah.
want to know the rest of the context because what I've heard is yeah, they cut stuff out, but what they cut out wasn't really it didn't affect the movie in any way. It really
Mm.
didn't change the movie in any way, but there was context to things that they did in the book that they didn't have time for
Yeah.
the actual movie itself. Like for instance, I just know that this is little snippet to go ahead and like prolong the earth from cooling, they dropped nuclear weapons on the North Pole.
Oh gosh.
to go ahead and warm the
Kind
Earth
of
up to give themselves an extra period of time while the sun is cooling.
wow,
So that's one of
interesting.
the things I just know that they cut. I mean, there's I think there's a bunch more, but that's one
Yeah,
of the things I was like, wow, that would have been something to show on in the movie screen.
yeah. And that's an interesting story too. I mean, of course, the more interesting story is what happens to Grace, but I mean, just think of how the world reacts after those astronauts leave. And it's like, okay, they're on their mission, and basically we have to have faith in what they do, and hopefully they're able to accomplish their mission. Although we don't have any,
What if all
we
three of them died?
right. And like, or like, how do we make sure that we give them enough time? How do we stretch this 30 years out as far as it'll go, as a
Mhm.
species? Like, now that we got that going and we put all our brains together and sent that ship out into outer space, what do we do now? As like a bunch of scientists and a species that are trying to prevent, world destruction.
Yeah,
That
because if they
that could be its own movie, honestly.
yeah, because if they hear nothing back, and then
Right.
they know they had about 30 years before before the sun cooled and basically
Yeah.
became the planet became almost they got to the point where it was like, you know what, we wouldn't be able to basically a Thanos event. That's the best way
Yeah.
to put it. A Thanos event would take place. Food would be gone. People wouldn't share it. And then it would just an extinction event.
And could you imagine the celebration on Earth once they realize those four probes are back in the atmosphere
Oh,
and as a solution? Like,
well,
that'd
not that
be
they're back, but there is something in them
right.
with a known way to fix the problem that they have.
Yeah. Can you
That
imagine
that
just like
yeah.
that news? Well, that's a good day on Earth.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's when all the countries would rejoice together.
Yeah.
Oh, so I think this was like I said leading into it. This has been probably one of my favorite movies that I've watched in a very long time because it wasn't IP related. It wasn't a
Right.
sequel. It was an original movie. Granted, it was a book first, but it
Yeah.
was an original movie, and it had everything in it. It had laughs. It had drama. It had you your your heart aching for certain things. It was just had everything in it that a movie that you'd want to have and just feel good about.
Did you see it in IMAX?
I did not know.
I didn't either, and I'm wondering if like, because now that I know what the visuals are like in the movie, like I'm wondering if it would be worth it to on a second viewing to go see an IMAX viewing just because it was so cool. Some of those shots were breathtaking
Yeah.
in the movie. Like you talked about, like 2001: Space Odyssey, it like reminded me of that. Just like the colors and the vibrancy of outer space, because it's like we as people, a lot of times we think of space as just like this black void with white dots on it, when really like the different colored gases and nebula and those crazy like visuals you can have in outer
Yeah.
space is really cool, and they went for that, which was neat.
That's some thoughts. I know I bought the regular standard screening basically because comfort. Seats are
Yeah,
better, more room. But now that we're probably a week beyond, it may not be a bad idea for the second viewing to be in an IMAX.
yeah. But that's gonna do it for our review of Project Hail Mary, brand new movie that's out in theaters now. It's our plan to basically do this as a double feature series. A lot of these new releases that are coming out during the summer. I think the next one up is probably going to be Super Mario Brothers 2 coming out very early April. We're going to catch that. But basically, what me and Chris are doing, we're seeing the new movie out in theaters, and then we're going to come back and talk about a movie that it reminds us of, maybe from our childhood, a movie from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, maybe something that we missed along the way that we'd like to talk about that's similar to these new release movies. And I think when we were talking about an older movie that's similar to Project Hail Mary, you and I thought of what, maybe like Jodie Foster in Contact.
Yeah, that was the first one that came to mind.
Another movie that came to mind was Flight of the Navigator from the 80s, especially the relationship between an alien and a protagonist. But I'll leave that up to you. What do you think we should talk about next week?
Let's do the Jodie Foster Contact. So I
Okay.
remember enjoying that, but I haven't seen that in forever. It's been
Yeah.
a very, very long time since I've seen that. So it's almost kind of watching it with fresh eyes to be honest.
Yeah, and it kind of had similar themes with basically a big world changing information and astronauts and themes about what it means to be human and humanity. So a lot of kind of themes that are similar to this one. So that's what we'll talk about next week is Contact, starring Jodie Foster.
Okay, and if you guys haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think. Drop a comment. If you're not watching live, I respond to as much as I can. So just let us know what you think. Join us next time as we jump into Contact.
Heck yeah, we'll see you.